You are standing in a crowded room. Conversations are flowing, plans are being made, and people are connecting all around you. Yet when you walk out the door, you leave feeling completely alone. We often blame this isolation on a lack of charm or the need for a more polished appearance. We assume that if we just had more baseline confidence, the people around us would naturally gravitate toward us. Real connection is often blocked by invisible psychological patterns, generating a barrier before a word is spoken. The brain deploys these defense mechanisms beneath your awareness, scanning interactions and closing the gates the moment risk is detected. When the subconscious prioritizes safety above all else, isolation becomes a byproduct of a protective system that is simply doing its job too effectively. Every potential friendship begins at the threshold. You step into a new social space and immediately face the tension of the initiation phase. This is where many fall into the trap of passive social behavior, the ingrained expectation that the other person must be the one to start the conversation or propose a plan. This passivity is driven by a quiet, overwhelming fear of rejection. The mind calculates that staying silent is safer than the perceived catastrophe of being turned down. This decision tree shows how connection probability stalls out. When both people default to the wait path, the chance of a bond forming drops to 0 before the interaction even begins. Choosing not to initiate successfully protects you from the pain of an immediate no. By successfully eliminating that small risk of rejection, the brain inadvertently guarantees the much larger trauma of complete isolation. Even when you clear that first hurdle and a conversation begins, the internal blockade remains active. You might find yourself strictly guarding your true thoughts and personal details, keeping the exchange focused entirely on safe external topics. This diagram shows two nodes attempting to connect. The lack of vulnerability creates a hard perimeter that deflects any attempt at a deeper bond. Without an exchange of personal truths, the emotional tethering required for a friendship never takes root. Navigating these guarded interactions requires a massive amount of social energy. The constant cognitive load of filtering your words and monitoring your responses causes this internal resource to drain rapidly. This mental exhaustion often leads to cutting the interaction short or avoiding the consistency needed to turn an acquaintance into a friend. When true vulnerability is absent, socializing stops being a way to connect and becomes an exhausting, unsustainable performance. The process doesn't end when the event is over. The setting shifts to the quiet aftermath where you are physically separated from the group. Here, the overthinking loop begins. The brain compulsively replays the entire conversation, looking for errors. You ask if you were judged or if you made a mistake, applying a hypercritical lens to the most mundane interactions. This feedback loop shows how the analysis of a past event raises the baseline for social anxiety. This in turn creates a much higher level of resistance toward the next social opportunity. This endless cycle transforms a simple interaction into a psychological deterrent, effectively sealing you inside your own loneliness. Looking at the whole picture, these 5 habits are not just obstacles, they are highly efficient tools of self-preservation. The irony is that the more the mind tries to insulate us from awkwardness and pain, the more it perfectly insulates us from love and connection. Real friendship requires a tolerance for social friction. It requires the willingness to step into a conversation without a script and the courage to look foolish. Lasting connections demand a mutual expenditure of social energy and the willingness to reach out first. To bridge the gap, you have to stop waiting for someone else to build the path. Accepting the discomfort of vulnerability is the cost of escaping the loneliness trap.